everyone, it's Danielle here from VA Lifestyle Design, and I've invited along today Stephannie to have a chat with me. Hi Stephannie.
Hi, how are you?
Really, really good. It's cool. We've had just a moment to have a quick catch up behind the scenes personally, because we haven't spoken for, I guess, about a few weeks to a month now. And I'm super stoked because Stephannie and I had been talking on complete opposite sides of the world. Her, late at night, me early morning, while I was in Kuala Lumpur, and Stephannie's actually in Knoxville in Iowa. And right now we just lined it up. They were on the exact same time zone in the States here on Central Time. So that's the perfect time for us to get together and both have daylight on our faces. So Stephannie is an incredible virtual assistant, and she was already working online when she started with the online biz skills training. So that was earlier this year. Is that right? Earlier this year?
Yep, that's correct.
And you'd already been working online for 3 to 4 years before you started that. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'll ask Stephannie to kind of elaborate in a moment, but what she did was basically focus on, increasing the breadth of her skill base into these online marketing implementation services, and also another set of services that I'm going to ask her about in just a moment. And so she'd been working online for that time, looking to kind of bring in more, that creativity and working with clients, and that, she was really excited to help them on their mission and, have that flexibility come into play. And just recently, a few months back, she put her hand up to step forward for a 90-day personal challenge, which the big focus of that challenge was on proactive outreach to secure client work that she was really excited about. Now, even though she was already working online full-time, it was actually changing that up and bringing it more and more into alignment with, the work that she's really excited about. So Stephannie is a mum of 2 teenage girls, which is amazing, getting to see some of the photos over this last, 3 months that we've been working together so closely, in Knoxville, Iowa, as I said. And now I'll hand over to her and just kind of ask a little bit. First, I'd like to ask you, Stephannie, could you share a little bit about the thought process you were going through, because you're already working from home, you're supporting your family, your girls are doing amazing things, you get to be there when they're home from school and all that type of thing. So you had this flexibility for quite some time. What was it that drew you to studying initially the online biz skills first up, and those online marketing implementation skills, and also share a little bit about the other skill set that you picked up this year?
Sure. It started with late last year. I knew that I needed to kind of get out of the job I was doing. So I was working from home, but working essentially as an employee. And for a company I wasn't passionate about what they were doing or anything along that line. And then January rolled around, and I'd already kind of been looking, kind of searching. I had been doing some online marketing for him, the business that I was working for. It was just, I had no passion behind what I was doing at all. And I kept wanting to learn more and learn more. He happened to have a stroke in January, so that just kind of propelled the need to find something else as well. I did work for him through July of this year, but January definitely propelled me, at which point I found you and the online biz skills at that point, which to me was all the detailed pieces that I needed to know, that I would be, upping my skills and going to other people and saying, okay, these are the skills I have, here's what I can do for you, on the implementation side, which was really kind of my focus at the time.
Fantastic. And prior to that, in your kind of offline career, traditional career, you had the background with kind of team management, project management, doing work that you'd enjoyed. I remember one particular role you were sharing with me about the large fitness club, and in that management role there, and kind of had a lot of fulfillment there, but then it changed, and then you wanted to bring some of that real enjoyment back into it. Is that kind of how you perceive it as well?
Yeah, definitely. My actual degree is just a 2-year degree in early childhood. So the creativity working with kids and that aspect had kind of been lost in essentially my corporate life. Administrative assistant, to VPs and things like that. You kind of lose that fun piece of doing anything. And so the rigid part is what I was hoping to get rid of and get back to really who I was, and being able to support people that I loved their business.
Awesome.
So,
And then share a little bit about the other skill set aside from online marketing implementation that you went ahead with. I think this was after the online biz skills. Is that right? Still this year?
Yep, it was still this year. It was through a different, Michelle Dales. She had brought on Gretchen Bruner, who was looking for essentially to train VAs to help speakers find speaking gigs. So I called it speaker coordination. So there's a lot of project management, outreach, relationship building, all the things I had done previously in setting up all kinds of events through my, the corporate life that I had as well. So it kind of just fell in line with the biz skills on top of that, and then, coordinating speakers as well.
Excellent, for sure. And so one of the clients you connected with was actually through that skill set and through that community. So share a little bit about how that happened. Was that through outreach or networking or in person? How did that client who you were supporting with as a speaker coordinator come about?
Our group, they posted particular speakers that were interested in looking for a VA to help them. And it was kind of a free-for-all. Everybody could reach out as they chose. And
so this is a private group, right? As part of the paid training. Group. Yeah.
Gotcha. Paid training, private group. Sorry, yes. And when I reached out to her, she also owns a staffing company. And my big connection was I worked for a staffing company in a administrative standpoint. So when I reached out to her, I made sure to make it very personal about I understood that world and I understood the business, and I'd love to speak with her further. And so between that and I looked at her website and brought up some things about our website in the email as well that I liked.
I love this. You did digital detective work beforehand, right?
Yes. And I made my email very particular to her and what I liked about her website and how, the connections that maybe she and I had together. And I can tell you the one thing she said back to me that I resonated immediately was, I loved in your email that you took the time to look at the website ahead of time. And yeah.
Isn't that just the most amazing thing?
Yeah.
Were you surprised that she was, I don't mean surprised that she was impressed, but surprised that that small act of looking at the website before actually speaking to her stood out? Or did you kind of already know that that was the way things are, basically?
I think personally, I'm always digging and looking. So that's kind of a personal side of mine, but knowing some other people, I know the email was probably very generic. Mm-hmm. And just, hey, we saw you were posted in the group, would love to talk to you. Mm-hmm. But I try to make all my connections more personal.
Right. And one thing that's really stood out for me, and I'll talk more about this as we kind of go on, but I did have the opportunity to kind of collaborate with Stephannie one-on-one, and having the chance to review some of her kind of networking and outreach correspondence. You have this incredible, just real genuine enthusiasm on real specific things. It's not those kind of bland vanilla compliments like, I like your business, can I work with you? Like you were just sharing an example, right? It's like this real like, oh, I love that you're doing this or what have you. You've got like maybe, a smiley face or an exclamation point in there, which I love to include in there.
Right.
But it's just this real like genuine connection. Actually, right. I will share in that regard as well. There was at one point where Stephannie had actually reached out to me when our relationship was kind of, we were first getting to know each other, and I was just like, jaw on the floor, what an incredible outreach email. It wasn't a fit perfectly at that time, and I'm grateful that we've since had the opportunity to work together in a different way. But I just remember going, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Like she's just super knows what I'm thinking and knows what the upside is to me personally in the context of, team support collaboratively for a client. And I wrote back to you and I shared that sentiment. I was like, this is incredible. People kind of feel like sometimes if people write back, oh, I've got your name on file, that's just like a polite kind of decline. But I don't actually say I've got your name on file unless I really, really do. And that's what I'd said to you. And I remember when we talked, you were like, I didn't know if you're just saying that. I'm like, I'm dead set not saying that. just saying that. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I remember I was like, I want to work on her team. I want to figure that out. And so I figured it can't hurt to ask.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so now we kind of get to collaborate side by side, which is like just as awesome. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. And so, sorry, I interrupted you there. So you had sent this email and she said that that really stood out, that you'd taken that time to check out her website first. And then you hopped on a call together?
Yes, we got on a call, and ours was just a phone call. It wasn't a video call. She travels a lot, so it was just a phone call. And I put together a proposal after I talked to her, kind of nailing down like the best that I could, how I want this to go and how it should go. And I offered 3 options because it seemed to me that either, okay, here's kind of my all-in option. Here's, you know, just to taste it and see what you think, so we can maybe work together, get some hours under our belts, or this package under our belt and see how it goes. And then kind of a middle of the road option. And she came back with ready to go all in with my big all-in package. So
excellent. And it's amazing how commonly that occurs. If people are like putting the time and the attention into seeking out just the right person, well, then they want the best, right? And so if it's within their budget or their business model, then that's what they're going to go for as much as they can.
Yeah. And she happened to be somebody that, you know, she was ready. She's been on, you know, she in particular, in her circumstance, she was ready to go. So it happened to be perfect. So
that's excellent. I love that. And so Stephannie was working with this speaker client before we started working together one-on-one as part of this 90-day challenge. It started in August of this year. And then what happened was, it's like, okay, what am I going to pair up with this? And there was this focus on broadening the service that you're offering to really kind of getting hands-on with now these online marketing implementation services as well, because you've been doing that a little bit, but you really wanted to dig in with that. And I know one of your personal passions as well was Instagram and just a range of things, but just really getting into all of these things: blog management, email marketing support, landing page creation, you know, social media, all those types of things. So what we did was, at the beginning of the challenge, it's not a challenge, you know, in competition with other people. It's a complete personal challenge with me hopping on calls with Stephannie each week to provide guidance and feedback and ideas, and, you know, navigating the twists and turns as these kind of conversations with business owners evolve and different opportunities come up and different opportunities slide away, what have you. And so what I'd love to do just quickly is share the brief overview from a data perspective, right? Just let's look at the numbers side of things. And we were able to do this at the very end of Stephannie's 90-day challenge. She actually, you know, went back through all her tracking, her Meister task tracking, her conversations, her email, and completed a kind of reflection exercise to look at, like, okay, I've been in action, I've been in this consistent action taking mode for the last 3 months. What has eventuated here? And so the big picture overview that I'll share with you, with Stephannie's permission, is I said to her, okay, I was asking these questions for reflection, and I said, what is the total number of people or businesses you offered to help, right? Via email, social media, or in person. So, and the reason I worded the question like that was because I could say, how many outreach emails do you send? But it's broader than that, right? Because when you're connecting with clients, you've got your skills up, whether that's from your past corporate experience or from your training that you're doing right now. To connect with clients initially, it's not all about content marketing and blogging and Facebook Lives, etc., because that's the long-term play, right? The immediate, or the short-term results, not immediate, short-term results come from you proactively offering to help specific individual people and business owners, right? The same thing, but it could be, you know, a few people if it's a big team, or just one individual person if it's a solo entrepreneur. And so that's why I worded the question in that way. What's the total number of businesses or people you offer to help via email, social media, or in person? Because some of these are direct outreach emails. Hey, here's my LinkedIn profile. Here's what I can do. here's why I'm excited to work with you, and here's what I'm offering. Some of them are social media conversations, which is really a big part of what Stephannie brings into this, just this enjoyment of being in the groups and starting these conversations and contributing and sharing enthusiasm and sharing gratitude and offering to help with something without any intention of, you know, or without any expectation of that turning into an exact client relationship right away, right? And in person, we'll talk about in a little while as well. So she, at the end of 90 days, tallied up that she'd offered to help 38 people specifically through those different avenues, right? Social media, direct email outreach, or in person. But I think the in person came afterwards, right? After the 90-day challenge.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we'll talk more about that soon. So 38 people that she's started a conversation with digitally. And 12 people out of those 38 booked with her to discuss the possibility of working together, to continue that conversation forward, to take it out of the Facebook group and onto the Zoom or the Skype call, or to take it out of the email exchange and onto the Zoom or the Skype call, right? And of those 12 people, 11 of those conversations actually went ahead, like where it's a conversation where now we're directly talking about, are we a fit here? Could I help you? You know, do you have the need for my skills and the, you know, the business model and the infrastructure set up where you're actually going to get leverage out of that? You know, let's talk about working together. Out of those 11 conversations that went ahead, one client was booked within that 90-day time frame, within the confines of that specific challenge. A client in the wellness space who Stephannie's been able to really dig into the online marketing implementation skills specifically. So it was kind of having, you know, not moving away from the speaker support, but like having that complementary client service experience to really pair up with it. And then there's not only been that one client booked in the 90-day challenge confined specifically, but then other conversations now that we've just kind of had a chat about before we started recording here, that came from these 38 conversations that started in that 90-day challenge. But it doesn't just stop. Like, you have a sprint of connecting with people, you know, offering to help, and that continues on as people get into different situations, or they realize, oh my gosh, I didn't take action on that, but now I really do need to speak to Stephannie. Who was that woman again? I'm going to look her up on Facebook. You know, all those types of things. The conversations keep continuing on, because initially when we reach out to people, they aren't always in the right position. But if you develop this consistency and this habit with it, it doesn't have to be constantly, because as solo service providers, we're only looking for a handful of less of really awesome clients, sometimes just one or two, depending on the situation, right? That's realistic. And I know Stephannie's vision extends beyond being solo, but let's look at it in that context first up. Those numbers to me are incredible, right? Because they are completely realistic. I think it sets a really good expectation for you. Like, a lot of the times you might hear me sharing stories like a new VA just like took the online biz skills, and then the next week they reached out and connected with 2 of their friends and they got 2 clients, and that's that, right? So you might, and you know, you'll hear me sharing my story. I got started in 4 weeks and like connecting with clients in 2 weeks. I was pitching myself and coming in at a much lower starting rate that Stephannie is on now. She had already been working online, so she'd already got that experience and that confidence level to be doing this at a high rate. So there's those variables to kind of take into consideration with speed here, and, you know, the length of those conversations back and forth to find out if the fit is there with these clients. So with that said, 38 conversations. Out of those, 12 people booked to discuss a possibility. 11 of those conversations went ahead, and 1 client booked, with other pending, you know, proposals and discussions coming. How did you feel about those numbers, Stephannie? Like, in the process, and also then afterwards reflecting back?
Well, I remember my initial thought was, I should have reached out to more people. That was kind of my initial thought. But once you like do the numbers and get to actually look at them, which keeping track of them was brilliant, because I probably wouldn't have done that without you saying, let's keep track of them so we know what we're looking at. So you got to, once you do that and you look at them, you go, oh, okay, so the next time I do this, I know, you know, I may have to reach out to X number of people, or, you know, however that goes. So it was really good. It's a really good reflection at the end to see how far you've come and what
Excellent.
it took to essentially land that client that you, it ended up being a dream client too. I will add that.
Yes, yes. Absolutely. And would you like to share a little bit about how that client relationship has evolved even since we stopped working together one-on-one?
Sure. You know, first of all, the way I found her was really interesting, and we kind of talked about, touched a little bit on that with outreach in different groups. And in particular, there was a VA that was looking for help for someone in the health and wellness industry. She couldn't do it, and she didn't have the capacity, and she was looking for her. And I, for some odd reason, there wasn't any other information, but I felt a drive that I'm going to respond to this. So I responded, sent my information over, heard nothing for probably 2 or 3 weeks. And then I got a call or an email, and she wanted to talk further. And I couldn't even remember where she came from originally. So I had to kind of track it back. And we kind of started out because in a strange way, because she was looking for someone at a much lower rate than what I was offering at, a really an introductory rate. And I loved her. We had a huge connection. And I said, I understand that you want someone at that rate, but the skills you're looking for are going to be at a higher rate.
Rewind that, guys. Take notes.
I said she had a few that hadn't worked out, and I said, well, that's because you're looking for someone to help you move your business forward, and they were people at that lower rate that are going to do what you tell them to do.
Yes.
And that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you, think with you, move you, give you suggestions, tell you different avenues we can utilize, which is why my rate is higher.
Yes. And I will say there, like you saw me nodding in enthusiasm and agreement of what Stephannie was sharing, but I want to clarify that my enthusiasm, my nodding is specifically to the clarity with which she expressed that to the client and the client's specific scenario and what the client's expectations were, that they were actually wanting someone to help them move forward along that continuum from task-oriented to results-oriented. Right? Now, but my enthusiasm is not like, okay, well, we all have to say that and we all have to take the lead and we all need to tell the client why our rate's high or what have you. I have just as much enthusiasm and advocate just as much starting at that introductory rate if that's where you're at with your skill set and your experience and your confidence for whatever reason. Even if you're 2 years into your VA career, doesn't matter. And being that one that the client says, you know, as Stephannie said, telling that you need to tell them what to do, right? If that's you now, awesome. Get your foot in the door, get those runs on the board, get that experience, get paid. And that's absolutely how I approached it when I was starting out, right? So it's not so much like one or the other is right or wrong, but here what I'm hearing Stephannie share is it's about that fit, and that conversation that she initially had with the client helped her to determine that the client wasn't actually asked after a task-based VA, and that was where she was running into these hiccups. So there's always clients who, for whatever reason, budget, personal preferences, character, personality, whether they're kind of like a step back person or a take the lead person, you know, it's about finding that fit between us as the service provider and the client, whether that's, you know, for financial reasons or just personal character reasons as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, she was ready for something more, and I was ready to step kind of into that role. And so, I mean, in all honesty, I discounted my rate a little bit and worked within the budget she had to offer something, because I wanted my foot in the door with her to show what I could do, because from talking to her, I knew where she wanted to go. And I knew from her website, I could see where she was currentent. And, you know, there was a lot of deciding factors within that. So not a significant, I didn't do like a huge discount, but I did do something to ideally get my foot in the door. And from that point, we've worked together the last month. It's been awesome. And now she's asking how many more hours can I work? She wants to move me into the project management role over the other team members she has. And so, you know, what I was hoping would happen seems to be happening.
Isn't that incredible to reflect back on that? And all that came from you just continually stepping forward, having those conversations. And then once you're there, it's like you can dig right into that relationship like what you're doing right now, extending very rapidly in less than 2 months, less than even maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah, we're only on month 2. Yeah, we're right at the beginning of month 2. So yeah, so it's really exciting.
Once that trust is there, it's amazing how rapidly things evolve, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. And there was a great connection, and it's just been, she's thrilled. I love working with her. It's just been amazing for both of us. So
yeah. So now you get to do the online marketing stuff, but also that project management stuff that you had kind of had that intention on as well, bringing in from your past career experience as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Love
Absolutely.
that.
It's exciting.
Love that. So let me ask you this. Were you comfortable, like when the challenge started, obviously you already work online, you'd already connected with clients, you're already talking about being in these groups and reaching out to people, etc. But when you said to yourself, okay, I'm going to do this like in an intense stretch over 90 days, where like, you know, Danielle's going to ask me the question at the end of the week, like, how, no, I didn't kind of drill you like that, but you know the process. It was kind of like, okay, we're meeting on a call and we're going to chat about what happened in the week before.
Right.
And so when you knew, okay, I'm kind of committing here to myself to do a perhaps much higher number of these conversations than I would just casually, you know, going along already having work online. Was it comfortable straight out of the gate doing that kind of volume and that kind of clarity of intention?
No.
Okay. That was a trick question because I already knew the answer.
What's funny is there's some people I really wanted to work with, or some businesses I was really excited about, and some of them I heard nothing from. And then some of them are like, nope, we're good. Or, you know, some are like, well, maybe next year. We're looking for something maybe next year. But if it was somebody that you didn't want to work for, or you did want to work for, you were a little like, oh, darn it. Or you didn't hear back from them, you're like, shoot. But then you just keep going because it becomes less scary, less less hurtful. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah.
I really want to say that, but it doesn't affect you as much the more you do it.
Yeah, you don't get that feeling like on your heart or in your gut. Yeah, it's just more
but
smooth.
At first you absolutely, it's always like, oh, I'm going to send this. I have to hit send. Oh my gosh.
Do the last proofread.
Yeah, 6, 10, 12 times, yes.
There you go. This is normal. I do the same. If it's outreach email, 6 is not an exaggeration. Times proofreading, that is.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
I just need to put an extra up in there.
Right. How did I miss that the first time? You know, things like that, where it's like, what else did I miss? Yes, yeah. It's
that's
a little,
normal. It's okay.
Yeah.
I would actually recommend that. Not necessarily 6 times specifically. It depends on your detail orientation and your personality. But I know I'm not the best with typos yet.
Yeah. So yes, it definitely got better, but at first it was, and it wasn't perfect every time. It still was a little twinge there, but it got a little bit easier. So after the first couple of weeks.
After the first couple of weeks, yeah, because I was going to say to you, I'm not sure at what point it was in that 90-day stretch, but there was this one point where we were talking and you were kind of like, I'm loving this now. Like, it was kind of like it almost became its own end. Like you were doing it for the enjoyment of the outreach more so that we forgot about even getting the client part. Like,
right.
Not completely, of course, but just like you really got into it. Like you got really present into the flow of that. Cool, I'm going to send another email. Who else could I help? Who else could I help? What am I excited about their business? And you really started loving it.
Right. Sometimes you get the responses back and it was like, ooh, they want to talk to me. It's like, oh, I wrote a good email, or, you know, it's like, felt pretty good about yourself for a minute. And it was nice.
I love that. And so after the challenge, you just mentioned to me just a moment ago that there's a couple of more conversations that have actually continued on. So did they just reach out back to you, or they dug up your email from 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks ago? What happened there?
Yes. So I have 2 people that just kind of came back around from that challenge time, that now they're ready and now they want to have one in particular wants a second conversation, but another one was ready to take my services and go with it. So yeah, so it's sometimes timing. Some people they're kind of ready, but they're not sure. And some people just need a little bit more time to really absorb, I think, of
and
what they need.
the powerful thing is, like, we're not web developers, we're not designers going project to project and needing this continuous stream of leads. Like, even though it was really, I loved what you said about, you know, tracking those numbers and how that gave me the confidence to know, well, if I ever need to do that again, you know. But the interesting thing for us as ongoing supporters, like with speaker, you know, support, or with online marketing support, it's the same thing. You're helping people day in, day out, week in, week out. The same thing needs to be implemented, whether it's on a task or results basis. You don't need that many clients, right? Because we're not building a website, handing it over to the client, right, we need the next project, the next project, the next project. And so the leverage you get out of this number of discussions, whether it's a week stretch or a 90-day stretch, whatever kind of challenge you personally put yourself through, it's incredible the leverage you get out of that, and the ongoing future conversations. But then even more powerful is those referrals coming in from clients and so forth as that network develops. But yeah, I think that's a really important thing to know, is like, you're picturing yourself doing this in stretches and having that confidence that, okay, I can do it in a stretch again, because I know my rough numbers, right? It comes down to probability. There's variables there, but it's definitely a confidence driver to say, hey, I can send 38 emails, land an awesome dream client. But at the same time, you might not even have to, you know what I mean? Like, because, yeah, of the low number of required clients compared with the depth that we can get into these relationships, because we're offering this broad support skill set or consulting skill set or what have you. I would love to ask you about, you went to a local networking event, and you know, as part of the 90-day challenge, we wanted to look at a big, huge focus on proactive outreach and social media networking. That's where the bulk of the intention and the focus and the time was spent. But then as we got into the third month of that particular personal challenge, there was a smaller focus on getting started with content creation, but also the other aspect was local networking, face-to-face, in person, in real life, so to speak. So what is it that you put your focus on, or you found in Iowa, in the Knoxville area?
So here in Iowa, and I think they're nationwide as well, it's called Fem City, was the group that I became part of. The kind of the base membership was like a free situation, and then there's a paid piece to it as well. But just went in at the free side just to check it out and see. And I went to it was a National Women's Business Organization, big yearly presentation. I can't remember exactly what it's called now. That's terrible.
I think I've actually got it here in my notes.
National Women's Business Association. It was like their yearly dinner.
Awards luncheon, was it?
Awards luncheon.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's a mouthful.
Terrible.
NORBO, I think, is the acronym. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
You back up.
The group Fem City that I was part of, somebody wanted to get a table and represent the organization to support, you know, women business owners, which was obviously the whole point of the event. So I was part of the table and knew no one in the Fem City group, knew no one that was going to this event, and there had to be 300 to 500 people in there. So I walked in. I don't know who's sitting at my table. I don't know. They don't even let you into your table for an hour and 20 minutes. So you're mingling, and they had, you know, drinks and appetizers kind of running around, and I was petrified. Stood there kind of alone for a while. And
this is your first time doing this, like a business networking thing, or have you done it in the past for other stuff?
Well, if I was, you know, the Fem City in particular, you're going to go immediately to the event and you're going to meet those people immediately. This was tons of different business owners from around the Des Moines area and from outside of Des Moines. And so it was a way bigger event than just a normal networking event, essentially. Yeah. So a lot of, you know, there's a lot of businesses there with big groups, and so tons of people knew each other. But I do remember, you know, finally when they opened the doors and we sat down at the table, it there was only 7 of us at the table. Our table, I think there were 7 of us total, and greatest conversations I've had. I think there's 2 people in particular that I'm going to be working with as a VA.
Woo! I hadn't actually heard that confirmed, so this is me getting the news as well. That's awesome. I'd heard when the conversation had started, yeah.
Yeah, so right. So I went to this event petrified that I was going alone. My daughter even at one point said, "Mom, you're going to go by yourself?" And I was like, "Yep."
She thought that was a bit out of character?
She was like, "Oh, she wouldn't do that." She's like, "No one's going to go. You don't know anybody?" I'm like, "Nope, don't know anybody, but I'm going to go meet people, so it's going to be great." And she's like, "Okay."
Good modeling there, right?
I know, I'm trying. So there ended up with 2 people, and what was interesting is there's a lot of small business owners that go to this, and they need virtual assistants and some help in certain ways. And the one woman's she's a life coach, and so she was looking to do some speaking. So that's what for her in particular, that would be what I get to help her with. So it's just.
And did this just evolve from like that natural kind of like, oh, what do you do type conversation, or were you pitching them?
No, I'm so far from a salesman pitchy person. I don't even like talking about myself generally. So I find out about everybody else first. And then they're like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a virtual assistant, and I do speaker coordination." And the one woman's eyes almost bogged out of her head. She's like, "What? Tell me about that." And I was like, "Oh." She was super interested. So it was really, it was an event that was tough to go to alone, but I'm so glad that I did, and plan to go to more here as the new year rolls around. So there's not a whole lot going on now that it's close to Christmas, but yeah. So excited for the new year and some new things.
And isn't that just incredible? Because I think, and I'm not sure if you said it here, but you'd let me know, there was actually 4 conversations you started having about the possibility they were interested in your services, right? 2 kind of the continuing forward, but right on the day, like 4 conversations of people saying, "I want to know about that. Like, tell me more about what you do," kind of thing. And this is the thing I like with this example in Stephannie's story here, is kind of like, sometimes when we think about local networking or on-the-ground networking, we think, oh, we've got to go to the BNI chapter like every Friday and pay our dues and get up and do our 60-second introduction every week and like, get a babysitter for the kids once a week. And, no, you don't. Sometimes it's kind of like this one event where, you might have been out of your comfort zone or what have you, but it's the right type of event that you're both excited to be at and the other delegates they're excited to be at. And you can make this connection with people. Like, you didn't have business cards, right? You didn't like go there.
No, I hadn't. I had ordered them because I was like, "Oh shoot, I should probably have something," but they hadn't arrived in time. And I'm like, "Well."
Oh, you had ordered them, okay? But yeah, I think it's actually better. I don't know if you agree, but I actually think it's better.
Well, people were asking for them, so it was a little awkward.
Okay, gotcha.
But I took theirs and then reached out to them, which was actually kind of nice because if someone takes yours, you never hear from them. There is that. So I did have the opportunity to take theirs and.
Good point. That's very good point.
Had to outreach after that. So.
Yes. And if you happen to not have business cards, some of the networking events that I've been to lately, and I didn't really even know this was a thing, but everyone make sure you have data on your phone so that you don't have to worry about connecting to Wi-Fi or what have you. Have the data turned on. Pull up LinkedIn. Sometimes people do it on Facebook, but what I've been finding is that people have been asking me for my LinkedIn profile, right?
Yeah.
And they we just stand there with our phones side by side and like connect on LinkedIn right then and there. Now, I didn't know this was a thing until I've started going to more networking events. But if you don't have the business cards, you take like the lead, so to speak, with saying, "Hey, I'll look you up on LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah." And, you have the data on your phone so you don't need to worry about Wi-Fi or lack thereof. That's a total other way to do it. And your LinkedIn profile is perfect. Stephannie does have a one-page website. I'm going to link to it under this video, wherever you're watching it. But if you don't have a one-page website like Stephannie has, LinkedIn profile is perfect for this, especially when you're starting out as a supporter, right? And you're not necessarily looking to help people move their business forward, but you're looking to help them implement what they're doing to move their business forward. Now, I would love to chat a little bit about something a bit different. So not specifically skills focused, but with the, actually guys, do you mind just waiting one moment? The thoughts just popped into my head and it's distracting me that I need to double check if anyone has this room booked straight after me. So I'm going to edit this part out, but I'll see you back here in just a moment so I can ask Stephannie that question without being distracted. Just one moment, guys. Okay, so we're back. I've just made a quick booking to make sure I extend out the time in this WeWork conference room so that we can keep chatting. And what I'd love to ask you about, Stephannie, there was something that you had shared with me when we very first started working together for the 90-day challenge. And I'd asked you about like your health and your physical comfort and all that type of thing, because I feel it's such a big part of our ability to be productive and have our, you know, clear thinking and our focus on what we're doing to move ourselves forward. And one of the things that you shared with me is that you had actually had a back surgery last year in 2016. Can you share a little bit about that and kind of what happened there and where you're at with it before you started the challenge and now?
Sure. I had a herniated disc that was sitting on a nerve in down my leg, and they essentially went in and kind of shaved off the part of the disc that was sitting on the nerve. However, I still have no feeling essentially in most of my left leg. So, which apparently isn't that big of a deal. As long as you can move it, they want that. But
do you mean to the surgeons, like from their perspective, not feeling it is better than pain? Is that what you mean?
Well, it's better than losing strength is their concern. If you lose strength in your leg, you can end up dragging your foot around. But if you lose feeling, that's a little bit less of a concern than the strength aspect. So I had no feeling, but I was losing strength in my leg, which was the reason that they decided to shave the disc that was sitting on the nerve. So since that time, it's never been 100% by any means. I always have to, especially, you know, in the work that we do, there's a lot of sitting, and sitting is the worst thing for it. So I have to be very mindful of if it's starting to hurt, getting up and stretching, icing it, putting my legs up, seeing my chiropractor on a regular basis,
right.
Which I have to make a priority, or it gets worse. Even though the surgery happened, it's still an issue. So, at the beginning of the challenge, it was bugging me at one point, and so I had some extra chiropractic care I needed to do, and some extra yoga I was doing to help kind of alleviate my discomfort. And so since then, it's been better. I haven't had too many issues as of recent, which has been great. So I think I found some good good working things that have finally helped. So
right.
This is good.
It sounds like you are super diligent with the things that you know that work to manage it, because you know that you just can't skip that. Like it's kind of like a non-negotiable.
I know how bad it can be. Yes. I know how if you can't move your leg and it's just complete pain that you can't do anything. So I know that I have to put that first and foremost and take care of it.
Right. Has there been any points, like not necessarily with outreach, but more so like client work, like getting the work done, like doing the things that you're offering for the speakers of the online marketing school, what have you? Has there been times where that any discomfort there has kind of like distracted your focus from getting things done? You've kind of had to like reschedule your day, or like have a sleep and then do it the next day, or like, has that been tricky at any point, or are you kind of managing it okay?
It gets tricky sometimes, because day to day, sometimes you don't know how it's going to feel. And not that it doesn't really worry me. I do like the flexibility in the business that I've built, that I have the ability to, if I need to go put my legs up for 20 minutes, I can do that. Or if I need to go, lay down in a different way, if I need to run to the chiropractor that morning that I wasn't planning on doing, which happens.
Yes. Weekday chiropractor visit, absolutely. Yeah.
Which absolutely happens.
When the office isn't packed full, like Thursday nights and Saturday mornings.
Well, and my chiropractor, who love to death, is an hour away from me. So that's the 2 hour deal, because I got to get there, get back, and get in. So that's a big chunk of my day sometimes. So definitely it does affect, but I work it in, and maybe I work later that night, or I make it work. I stand up that day. I work standing up as opposed to sitting,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely has caused little hiccups here and there, but nothing that I haven't been able to work through, because to me, there's always an answer. There's always, if you're honest with your people you're working with or working for as well, and letting them kind of know, hey, and I've never really missed any deadlines or anything like that. So it's not been that big of a thing, but it's definitely,
If you're just kind of
make
off
sure
the
I
air
manage
or what have you, if there
can
was a
definitely
conversation.
manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome to hear like that you've been able to blend it together, and also for such a period of time now as well. Like, yeah, like you said, it's not easy, but thinking about alternative situations where you're kind of like, oh, okay, well, I had that high-flying career, and now I can't have that because I can't sit down in this meeting like 9 to 5 every day, what have you, like, I mean, that's such a huge deal. Such a huge deal. Yeah. I know, for example, like not from personal experience, but growing up with my mum had fused disc surgery before I was born, and that impacting her ability to kind of work, not because she didn't have the competency and the drive for it, which she was like always like a real strong worker, or part of that work ethic I think I got from her as well, kind of thing. But just trying to get into something and then realizing the pain of being in one certain position and not being able to change it up, whether it was standing for hospitality work or sitting for office work, whatever it was, that without that ability to kind of change things up and vary it, it was super challenging for her. Like, and me not experiencing that myself, but seeing the emotional impact of that on her. Like, she's really pumped about this work, but then, well, I can't do it, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
I can get distracted.
I hope you don't mind me sharing that if you're watching Bump It. I'm sure she won't. Yeah, so we didn't always have this opportunity. Now with the internet at the way it is, with all these tools that allow for collaboration, where we literally can work at the same level that we used to do, it's brought this into being a possibility. Yeah. Did I cut you off on something you were saying just at the end there?
No, I was just agreeing that when you're in pain and you're in a creative role, or you're trying to do something creative, it can be very distracting. So it's always good to be able to find relief or a way to manage it, so you can, kind of be yourself and be your true self when you're getting to get work done. Yes,
that's it. Right on, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really good for people to know, and for everyone it's something different, it's not always like a physical thing. Sometimes it's a health thing or a mindset thing or just a personality thing in the way we work, but being able to blend this up that fits with us it's just been amazing for me. A couple of situations, if you haven't heard any of my story before, that I've been in is, severe beyond what I thought was humanly possible morning sickness in my third pregnancy. Had already been through pregnancy twice. Had morning sickness both times, but didn't know the extent that it could actually get to with my third child. Don't know if that was because it was a boy or not, or what have you, but I was zombified for about 6 weeks, had to let clients go, what have you, kept one on that was kind of lower brain power and kind of could be a bit more transparent with, but so graceful and grateful that I didn't have to stop. And that I could keep building my skills. And even if I did stop, I could come back into it, because then I didn't have to like ask someone else to can I have my job back now type thing. I just like, yeah, I'm available again. You know what I mean? And so kind of going, okay, and being graceful with that. And another situation was having to slow back the pace a little bit in 2016, when I relocated from one country to another and inadvertently changed my diet dramatically. Without even realizing it, started to react significantly with having breathing issues and coughing constantly, and having coughing fits every time I laid down horizontally, having asthmatic symptoms in relation to gluten, and that totally messing with my my mindset about productivity and presence and my capacity to get work done day by day, and having to kind of slow down the pace. Whereas usually I'd be proactively offering the next project, the next task to clients. Why don't we do this? Hey, with this launch, let's take it to the next level this time. And I had to kind of not stop, of course, but And not, of course, but the reason being is because I'm the primary income earner for our family of 5, and we live overseas or what have you. So, but not, but just kind of be like, take the pace at where I'm not potentially being as proactive, still doing high quality work, but needing to manage my mindset and my physiology with that, and also needing to drop back the pace a bit. So that was a really interesting thing for me, and I share that because it's not these kind of stories aren't uncommon. I know people experience a lot more severe things than that. There's other VAs talking about, you know, transitioning into this career while also experiencing severe chronic fatigue. Different things like that is different for everyone. Sometimes it's just sleeplessness of having a newborn or whatever it is. But being able to kind of blend that up, I think, is a really interesting thing that you can borrow snippets of other people's stories from, even if they aren't exactly like your own unique situation kind of thing. Right. And the resources that you've got access to. Maybe you have a babysitter, maybe you don't. Maybe you've got a chiropractor nearby, maybe you don't. Maybe you can, you know what I mean? If you get creative, like just accessing those resources to help you. And I feel that online work, if you persist on that path and you step into it and you serve and help those clients, you are able to kind of naturally surround yourself with more and more resources that enable you to move through challenging times that much, I guess I wouldn't say easier, but with more grace, you know, just you've got that flexibility, you've got that time, you can go to the chiropractor at 10 in the morning or drive 1 hour or, you know, have a sleep or what have you. And this is a big deal. I think it's a really, really big deal. I think it's kind of what our lives should be like, us managing our own life and our time and our resources or what have you, and our challenges. Definitely. Yeah.
I agree.
You agree? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So thank you for openly sharing that. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Sure.
There's something else I would love to ask you about in a completely different topic area. One thing that you had mentioned to me while we were working together is that you had really enjoyed kind of collaborating side by side with another service provider who has a different skill set to you, whose focus is on website building, web pages and all that type of thing. And there was one point where a client had asked something and you said, well, my friend does this, or what have you. Some of the time you'll hear me talking about outreach for clients and collaborators, right? And those collaborators could be people that are referring you, you know, work. They could be people that have complementary skill sets. They could be people that you're subcontracting to, or they could be people that you're just working side by side alongside. You know, right now I perceive Stephannie and I as collaborators, right? Because we've worked together on brainstorming things out. You know, if there's client opportunities, I'm sharing those with Stephannie. So it's not always collaboration in like any particular one definition, but I specifically wanted to ask you about it in the context of providing complementary services to the one client and how you actually kicked that relationship off.
You know, she in particular came through my speaker group, and there's a lot of kind of collaboration in there sometimes, and we had a couple calls, and she and I kind of clicked a little bit and had moved conversations offline, emails back and forth. What are you doing? Oh, she did web design, so we kind of talked about that. And as I got my first client, I was probably one of the first people within the group itself, and she wanted to know how I did it, and we had really good conversations through that. And as I brought on my first client, she had her website had some issues, and having already spoken with her name was Terry, having already spoken with her and like, oh my gosh, I would love to do some stuff with you, because she had a completely different skill set than I had. I don't know nothing about web building or anything. And when the opportunity came up, I was like, hey, do you have the capacity to take on someone else? Would you want to talk to her and see if you can help do some updates for her? And she was super excited to get the work. And from that relationship, we now are collaborating on some other things as well. Within the speaker world, of potentially someone doing just the research side and someone else doing the pitching side. So there's kind of two opportunities in there. So from that one time working together, we've kept the conversation going. She does amazing work, and now we're working on doing it in another way as well. So
That's
been great.
amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Had you kind of, did that just happen naturally, or did you have a specific intention for that? Oh, I want to kind of collaborate with people, or was it just something that came up?
It's funny, I really didn't, but as it came up, it was just like, oh, I have somebody that I could have help with that. You know, let's kind of discuss that further. And in that same respect, Deborah within our group as well, who you probably know, she is doing podcasts in particular. So she and I are partnering together as well, because she's got a little bit of a niche in the speaker world as well, specifically with podcasts. So again, you just find those people that you connect well with, and kind of have your work ethic as well. And as you kind of grow those relationships, it almost clicks in your brain like, oh, we could do this. And then you're bouncing ideas off of each other. And if you have a problem, you're going to each other. And it's really a great, you're building a community, because essentially if you're home working by yourself, it can get a little lonely.
Yes.
So if you have some people you can reach out to who understand, because they're doing the same thing, you have a feeling of a business. It's almost like a business feeling, but it's a community feeling, and you can help each other out. So that part's been really great.
Yeah, like the word that always comes to mind for me that I love is this international camaraderie. Have you heard me say that before? I'm such a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds similar to, well, it sounds exactly like what you're describing there. Just like playing together in the digital space, and ideas and action taking and momentum and sharing and fulfillment. It's incredible.
Right. Partnering with those people that are enthusiastic too, that helps drive it helps drive my passion and enthusiasm. It gets me kind of excited, you know? Yeah.
Sparks the ideas, like the different perspectives that people have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been great.
That's incredible. That's so cool. So I guess that kind of prompts me to ask you, you know, with that experience you've had with collaboration and connection and collectively supporting clients in different things, where is it that you see this going as things evolve for you over the next 2, 3, 5 years? Like, what's your vision for the business that you're creating? Is there consulting involved? Is there team involved? Is there, like, where's your strong suit? Like, where is that going?
Yes and yes to consulting and building a team as well. I love managing projects, and I love building those relationships with people and the clients. And not to say that I don't love doing the work, I do, but I also like having a team together as well. And I've learned too that there's a lot of people out there that don't like that piece, and they like to sit down and do a task and get it done. And so as somebody that loves managing the project, I'd love to have people on a team where I can expand and grow my business to a point where I have those task people that love getting the task done, getting those pieces done. And that's where their heart is. So essentially that's kind of my goal, is to build a business out to where I have a team.
Excellent, excellent. And then as the clients come in, you're not only doing what they ask and providing ideas proactively, but even kind of like facilitating that whole strategy process up front, that consulting process. Yeah. Help them figure out what they should be putting their focus onto, and then how you and your team can help.
Right. Absolutely. And I think I keep learning as I go, because I feel like there's a lot of things I don't know yet. So as I'm in it and doing it currently, there's so much room to grow and learn and add new things to my plate.
Yes.
To say.
Yes. Let me ask you this, just out of curiosity, because I'm interested, like, sometimes, you know, whether we take an entrepreneurial approach to building a VA business, or we take like a supporter approach as an implementer, it's not always about how much experience we have, right? So, you know, a common context that you'll be me sharing it in is like, you know, if you don't have experience, get skilled up through tutorial screencast training, right? The online biz skills or any other training, Udemy, Skillshare, whatever it is. And then put yourself forward as a supporter, offering to help. You've got the familiarity, and you're going to be resourceful enough to figure things out. You've got that 24-hour window to figure it out and then get back to someone, right? Everything's figure outable in 24 hours.
Right.
with Google and YouTube. So you often hear me sharing it in that context of like beginner to developing experience, right? And as you've heard Stephannie sharing, she has experience and she's been increasing that over this past kind of 12, 18 months. There's other variations there too, though. One is personality, right? Some people, even if they're super experienced and, you know, they've got the skill set, it's in their personality and their personal fulfillment to be in the supporting and the implementing role, right? There's other things like life situation and the scenario you're in right now, you know, whether it's your personal stage of life, you've just come out of a super high level career and you just want to like help someone with skills, but you don't want to be using massive brain power to consult with clients or what have you. Massive brain power, I don't know if that's the best adjective, but you know what I mean? Like the cogs are turning, but they're turning on the technical elements of implementation more so than how am I going to grow this business for this client type of thing. Right, so it might be, you know, personal situation. And one example in particular for mums is the age of your kids, right? Or
Absolutely.
the support you have with your kids, right? Okay, so for example, I have young kids. When I very first got started, I, you know, still in that hardly sleeping, don't know which end of the earth is up or down kind of phase, right? And I didn't have an entrepreneurial inclination then. It kind of naturally progressed as I got into the industry more and got more comfortable with the skill set and got more confidence with my clients and all that type of thing. And for some people, okay, they might have super young kids, but they've got awesome support. Like their husband or their wife or their girlfriend or their boyfriend is full-time childcare, or if they've got their parents close by or their neighbor close by to help with full-time childcare. And so you're really going to take that entrepreneurial approach right out of the gate for whatever it is. What are the kind of differences that well, let me just ask you straight up, like when your kids were like super young, would you feel like you'd have this same vision for the business that you have now, perhaps? Can you put yourself in that mindset? What are some of your thoughts around that?
No.
No, okay.
And that's just strictly because I think there was that age when I'm thinking young, like, you know, 5 and under, and I'm just thinking that age was so emotionally exhausting along with physically exhausting that I don't know that I had the capacity to do that.
Right.
And I mean, in particular, I was wanted to be home or around them, or, you know, the growth mindset wasn't there, and I really didn't have the support in that.
Yeah.
So mine are one's in one's in college and one's a junior in high school. So for me, it's a completely different aspect now.
Yeah, well, that's interesting to hear your perspective. And I don't ask Stephannie that so much to say, well, if you've got young kids, you can't do this, and if you've got older kids, you can. That's not
absolutely.
That's not kind of what we're sharing here, but more so like looking at your unique Rubik's Cube, right? Mm-hmm. You know, for Dan and I, like, yeah, I would have kept being a full-time mum if things had kept working out in Australia with his construction work, but that work dropped off. And it made more sense for me to get this work in the digital world with us relocating abroad. That is not going to be the same situation for anyone, but the Rubik's Cube kind of changes what your priorities are, or what you perceive your capacity to be, or what you're inclined to kind of do and take on. And I guess the main reason I want to kind of bring it to the forefront is not that like you can't do this with young kids, because there's, I mean, look all over the web, there's absolutely so many VAs with newborns like doing 6 figures. I'm like, you go.
I'm impressed. That's all I'm saying. I'm super impressed.
But the thing is like, there's absolutely nothing wrong, or there's no compromise in being a supporter and letting someone else take the lead for a period of time, regardless of what your life situation is. That could be for a health thing, it could be because you've got young kids, it could be because you're a newbie like I was, and that was the primary reason. Oh, and also because I had young kids, right? Newbie and young kids, no sleep. And just like didn't even know anything about the online work world. It was just like, right. I just literally found out about the word virtual assistant. Before that, I was just thinking, oh, I could help these people that I know are making money online, like that. Because I kind of had this reference of the internet marketing seminars that I'd been to and seeing people, you know, blogging and, you know, doing Google AdWords and all these things. So for whatever reason, really understand that the way you build your career in the online space is all of these things that Stephannie was talking about with the relationship building and the networking and the saying hello and the stepping forward and the being excited to help and sharing enthusiasm, sharing ideas, bouncing off each other. And the amazing thing is that if you are consistent with that component of it, and obviously you start to skill yourself up and then you get practical experience hands-on with those skills, you can pick and choose when you're taking a supporter approach and when you're taking an entrepreneurial approach. And like I kind of hinted to when I shared my little snippet of the story about having severe morning sickness back in 2012, that was, you can actually toggle between them, right? It's a really interesting thing. You don't always want to do that, but when and if life calls for it, it's absolutely possible. And no one's like, well, you were, you know, doing these high level packages before and now you're just doing hourly rate supporter. No one's saying that. They're just like, can you help me? Great. What do you do? What systems do you know? And that's that. That's all they want to know. It's not like in the corporate world, which is what I experienced and observed. Like when I first fell pregnant with my eldest daughter, I was in the corporate world and already had that experience of seeing mums kind of have this high level position in the law firm, go out to have their kids, come back, and because they're in part-time, the high level roles aren't available part-time. So they go into like the admin or support roles when I'd seen them 6 months earlier being at the high level paralegal roles or what have you. Like that was just like, that's not uncommon either, right? If you're not playing full out in the corporate world, it's not that it's necessarily discrimination, but it's just like the nature of how they structure the roles that you have to be speaking to those one bank clients in this instance in the role that I'm thinking about here. But here it's not like that. Part-time or just a small number of hours, you can still be supporting clients on either an entrepreneurial or a supporter basis. And I absolutely love that about the flexibility of this career, because I think it really, you know, whether it's for families, couples, singles, it really allows you to blend this career growth with your life for the long term and not have any kind of inclination to stop or scale back or retire or what have you. It's just like, it's awesome. Just helping people and connecting and collaborating.
And I was going to say too, when I reached out to you at the beginning, after I'd taken, I don't know, a month or two of your courses, I reached out and asked, you know, do you need help on your teams? And I literally would have taken that role. I don't know, no matter what the cost would have been to get the experience. Even though I had much more experience, I wanted to get in and like learn that experience under your teams. And so, I mean, I definitely would have done that. So
you're really, you're kind of saying there, you're aware of certain opportunities and willing to fit yourself in where that works for the collaboration.
Right.
Yeah.
Because my thought in my brain would have been, I can start here, but she's going to see how amazing I am, and I'm going to try and go here. That would have been my thought process.
Love that. That's awesome. That's another write it down, guys. Totally. That's exactly how it works.
But that's, if you go into it thinking that, then there's an opportunity for that. It may happen. You don't know. You have no idea where it could lead. So
if you go into it thinking that, it's highly likely that that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, this has just been such an amazing conversation, Stephannie. I feel like, yeah, we've really been able to bring to the forefront a lot of these amazing things that have kind of contributed to you making this transition. And in this case, it wasn't necessarily into online work because you already had that going for a few years, but this transition into this like camaraderie and collaboration and dream clients and networking and, you know, showing up to local events face to face and just getting really comfortable with this whole space. So thank you so much for everything you shared just now.
Thank you. Thanks for talking to me. This has been great.
Cool. All right, so ciao everyone. Stephannie, I'll just catch up for a few more minutes, but I'll stop the recording now. And any of the kind of links or extra things, I've got a couple of photos of Stephannie attending the event or what have you, I'm going to share with this video. So either check down below the video if you're checking this out on VA Lifestyle Design, or if you're looking at it somewhere else on social or YouTube, look for the link where you can go and check out any of the supporting things and the notes that I've written up about this. All right, ciao for now, guys. See you, Stephannie.
Bye-bye.